Hello?
We need to talk.
We need to talk.
We need to talk. We need to talk.
We need to talk.
Welcome back to Wntt. I'm MR.KOA alongside
Top Boy.
episode 2 of 2020. We got a lot to talk about, actually. I came with a little bit of a list.
Okay.
A little bit of a list I want to jump into real quick. Probably the most interesting thing I read about this week. It's not new, but it's kind of still formulating. The Meghan Markle and Harry.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if you guys don't know,
Close to home because you know I'm a British boy, but let's go.
close to home.
Let's
Close to
go.
home. So if you don't know what's happening, Meghan Markle married Prince Harry. They've been, under scrutiny and media and all the pressures of being in the royal family. And Meghan Markle already got flack when it first happened that they were getting married.
Yeah.
For being, the first mixed race, person in the royal family. But also a lot of people kind of phrased it as if she was kind of like a bad influence on him in some sense. That's kind of how it was targeted. But they have a kid together. It's been great. But now, as of I think a week ago or a few days ago, they released a statement saying that thank you guys all for supporting us and blah, 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 blah. And it's a pleasure, being in this position. But we decide to step down from the royal family in the senior role, which means they still want to be part of the royal family, but also want their own freedom to kind of live their life as independents and support themselves independently. So there's a lot of, let me just read this real quick because I saved it, because I was reading not only their statement, but I was curious of how people were reacting to it, right? And the reaction to it, I was kind of like, wow. Like, some of the comments are like really serious comments.
Okay.
So I'll read a few that are just off the top. So
well, what's the statement? Like,
their statement was, okay, after many months of reflection and internal discussions, we have chosen to make a transition this year in starting to carve out a progressive new role within this institution. We intend to step back as senior members of the royal family and work to become financially independent while continuing to fully support Her Majesty the Queen. It is with your encouragement, particularly over the last few years, that we feel prepared to make this adjustment. We now plan to balance our time between the United Kingdom and North America, which most likely will be Canada.
they actually just announced today it'll be Canada.
Yeah, it'll be Canada. Continuing to honor our duty to the Queen, the Commonwealth, and our patronagers. The geographic balance will enable us to raise our son with an appreciation for the royal tradition into which he was born, while also providing our family with the space to focus on the next chapter, including the launch of our new charitable entity. We look forward to sharing the full details of this exciting next step in due course as we continue to collaborate with Her Majesty the Queen. So just literally a couple comments are just at the top that are just sitting here are in the sense of, so rudely decided to diss grandma and lead the royal family. Don't concern yourself with that. Everyone has a say. There was one that I said that read...
You're probably like, wow.
Yeah, it's like, I hope the royal family removes your titles, property, security, and all. If you want to be financially independent, step down from royal duties so we but stop enjoying any benefit from it. Okay?
It's kind of interesting because like it's not like she didn't have money before she came into the family.
A lot of, just basically the sentiments that are in these comments are just like, you know what? You're disrespectful to the Queen, you're disrespecting tradition, you're disrespect. Like, there's a lot of anger in these comments.
Yeah.
And I read up some more about it, and basically, they're going to be in a tough position because they essentially are able to do what they want to do, but they're not allowed to use their brand to progress any business they start.
Yeah.
Which is almost impossible. Like, how can you, if you make a business and be like, oh, take me as I am as a person, but act like you didn't know I was a prince, or like, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, it is impossible.
It is impossible.
Yeah,
but
is.
What are your thoughts on, the situation? Like, Meghan Markle's basically saying, like, they didn't really like the pressure of being in that position, and it's been historical, whatever, but they want to try something different. It's never, only person that's happened with that I know was Princess Diana, and you know what happened.
So you know whose mom that is?
And you know what happened with her. It was accident, who knows, but whatever. But that happens to be Prince Harry's mother.
Yeah. So
I still find the weird thing about just this whole Queen thing. It's still kind of weird for me in this era, but...
Well, okay, like here's the thing. I think the reason why the Queen thing is kind of weird to a lot of people in North America is just because the Queen of England is still like such a well-known title, right? But in places like Africa, there's still a lot of like kings and queens of individual countries or, you know, townships, whatever you want to call it. The Queen doesn't, like, I think people, I know you don't think this, but when people think of the Queen of England, there are definitely people out there who think the Queen has like an insane amount of power on the level of the government.
Yeah, like she controls stuff.
And it's not like that, but it's weird when you think about in this day and age, there's still like this this patriarchal system that they follow. Personally, I think a lot of the reason why British media in particular, we don't really see it here, but if you ever look up or see British media talking about Meghan Markle from day one, like she's gotten the worst of it, right? And I can't help but feel like a lot of it has to do with, you know, who she is as a person, her being mixed race, which is kind of crazy because if we're being real, like as a mixed race woman, like it's very apparent that she's mixed race, but she doesn't fall on the side where it's like she's like she's very black. You know what I'm saying? Like
crazy curly hair.
Exactly. She's not like that. So for me, as soon as I saw her getting flack, I was like, okay, like it's pretty obvious why this is happening. And I don't know, I've just been seeing things on Twitter, people talking about the incident or talking about them leaving the royal family. And there have been some hot takes where people have been saying like, look, I think Harry wanted to get out because he knows like what happened to his mom. Right? And look, I don't like speculating on things like that, but it's interesting though, right? Because interviews in the past now look very different now all of this is happening, right? So there was like an interview where I think when they were getting married, they're in like separate locations or whatever, and Harry's in his room and she's in the room next to him, but it's blocked off. And I think they were filming like a mini doc, and he hears like a loud bang, like he hears something go off, and his first reaction was just like, he's like, I really hope Meghan's okay, right? Like,
oh, he thought it was her.
That was like the first thing he said, right? And obviously, like on your wedding day, you want to make sure your person you're gonna be married to is good, but then some people are just like, yo, what if he was genuinely concerned for her health? Because of what he thinks may have happened to his mom, right? So it's like there's a lot of things that go into this. I'm not necessarily surprised at the anger, but
like coming from everybody.
Yeah, like I'm not surprised because
what is the anger, right? Like
the anger is that there are people who hold there are people that hold this British like patriarchal system to the highest level,
right?
So they think. They're looking at it like, oh, okay, Harry chose you, and now that he's married you, you guys are just leaving the family. Like you don't.
Well, some of the stuff I'm reading is that they're saying that Meghan's the reason he wants to leave.
Yeah,
which is another hit on her, which makes things just look even more like because of she's like, I know Harry's manipulating her to make him want. It's like,
or she's manipulating Harry.
She's manipulating Harry to make him leave because there was no problem before blah blah before she was into the house. So. I don't know. Like, so another speculation thing was since they had their son, Meghan actually kept her son in Toronto. While they went back to make their statement. What would you think is the reason for that?
Like why she would keep her son here?
Then go back to UK and make the statement.
Probably for like safety reasons. Like that's literally the only reason I have on top of my head. Like I don't know. I genuinely don't know I haven't
what really comes with it.
Yeah, I haven't looked into conspiracies or any kind of theories that people have about this. But I was young. I have to look up the date of when Princess Diana passed away. But for whatever reason, that's like an early memory I have in my head of being in England and just seeing it all over the news and seeing a lot of people upset about it, right? So it's very clear to me that, you know, there's just something's afoot.
Something's happening.
Something's afoot, you know? And if she decides, hey, I'm gonna leave my child here while we go over there and make this news, I think it has a lot to do with like safety. That's what I think. Why else would you leave your child like away? Like, probably for safety. The child's not like an old kid. Like,
my idea is that potentially she might have thought they would keep them, keep the child.
Yeah.
Like because the child would technically be next.
Yeah, it sounds like some Game of Thrones stuff. Yeah.
But like, right?
Mm.
Like the child, if you're out, then the child is next, and is he owned by the family? I don't know how that works. But something that was interesting though was that Canada, because we like to just give people stuff and just hand out offers, same thing we do with Kawhi.
Yeah.
But apparently Tim Hortons has been getting some flack because they released, I guess, an offer to kind of sweeten the deal if they chose to come to Canada. That Harry and Meghan could get free coffee for life.
Yeah.
Right?
That's just being silly.
Cool. It's being silly, sure. Yeah. However, the employees of Tim Hortons and people in the Tim Hortons community got mad at Tim Hortons because they basically said, you're willing to give these rich people free coffee for life, and we are still complaining about our wages and homeless people you don't even give coffee to.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, look, they got a point. They do have a point. They do have a point. Like, it just shows that Tim Hortons' priorities aren't in the right place. If I'm gonna reach into Christopher's bag and play devil's advocate, basically what's happening here is, look, 2 people getting coffee for life does not equate to homeless people and every employee that you have, right? If we're playing devil's advocate, I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. But it's true.
The numbers.
That being said, it's a very bad play.
Very bad
play. I wouldn't think to do something like that because I'd be like, yo, they can afford it. It's fine. It's already free coffee for life for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's interesting. I have another thing though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we didn't talk about the Ricky Gervais thing, the speech at the was it either the Golden Globes or the award show?
Okay.
So basically, Ricky Gervais, comedian, he was hosting. It might have been the Oscars. Yes, he was hosting the Oscars. He gets up on stage, and he had a 10-minute monologue. And in the monologue, he's just ripping on everyone. Okay. Right, but the way he started it off, he just said, you know what? He's like, once again, I'm back here hosting the Oscars. It's my 5th time. It's definitely going to be my last time. He's serious. He's like serious. He's like, I don't care anymore. So I'm just going to say whatever I want. And like, it was funny, but he was being very serious about the things he was saying. And he's like, like Kevin Hart, had a bad tweet and he lost the opportunity to host the Oscars. And he's like, but they let me host the Oscars, right? Like,
he's basically saying I
don't think it was the Oscars, it was something else, but
he's just saying you let me in,
So they let me in though, and he was being very real. When I heard that, I was like, okay, I rate him for saying, check it. Yeah. I need to check it out.
I think it's also interesting because I think being in that position, he took the opportunity because he's like, you can't turn me off. Yeah. He's like, at this point.
He said, what are you gonna do? And he's basically just roasting people, and he was just saying look, when you win. If you win an award tonight, don't come up here and give some political spiel and say something like that, because at the end of the day, you all make millions of dollars and you don't know anything about the regular people in life. They don't.
Oh, he went
yeah, he went in. He went in, and people. It was interesting seeing
the response,
right? Because a lot of people loved it. Some people were just it was off-putting for some people, and then it was interesting to see the political play because he said what he said. And then a lot of people on the right wing loved it, and then were trying to say that he's right wing. And then he had to come out on Twitter and be like, how is me bashing rich people right wing? That's
you have to make this clear.
Yeah, he's like, that's not right wing at all. Right? But I thought it was very interesting to see him go off on celebrities, right? But then the flip side to it, playing devil's advocate again, is he also makes millions of dollars from Netflix, right? And then his tour sold out because of this.
So you're saying he benefits, is what you're saying?
Yeah, he always benefit, but I think if I'm being generous, I think he realizes, he's aware that he benefits from stuff like this, and he's aware
of his privilege.
Yeah, he's not doing it for a gain. Yeah. But he's just look,
he's probably aware of it and still agree with it.
He's I know what comes with it. It is what it is, and it's very interesting. I know you're a comedy fan, right? You love going to stand-ups, and Dave Chappelle recently won the Mark Twain Award. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, and you should check it out. And basically what happens is they had all these comedians from his life giving speeches, and then he came up at the end and like kind of did like a mini set, like a 5-minute set.
Okay.
And literally after the award show, he goes to like a comedy club and just does another set. Like in his suit and everything, right?
He loves it.
But he went on this rant about comedy, just saying how comedy is like the one thing in his life that he thinks everyone needs, right? And not just to laugh, but he was saying that comedians are really kind of like the purveyors of society in the sense that they see everything that is going on and then they talk about it, like whether or not people want to or not. Right?
They're gonna discuss
and I think the best comedians can do it in a way. They can make
any situation funny.
Like any topic that is taboo, they can at least either make you laugh about it or think about it in a way where it's like, okay, like I get that. I get that, right? And he was just saying how, you know, some of your favorite comedians are like super racist, right? Like they're like, when they're telling that joke on stage, like a racist joke, he's like, I'm in the back, just smoking a cigarette, going, "Oh, he really means that." Like, because I know him,
portraying it as a joke.
He's like, because I know him, he really means it. But he was saying, no matter what, he's like, I'm gonna defend like a comedian's right to
express himself,
to do their job as a comedian. Right. I may not agree with some of the things that they say, but I'm never gonna say like a comedian can't do this.
Yeah.
And it's like it's very interesting, like super introspective. So you gotta check that out too.
Yeah. Okay, sick. So I was given a question today.
Yeah.
Something that I've over the years, especially like last couple years, and I think we might have discussed it privately, but I wanted to discuss the concept of like, I'm turning 30 this year. You're turning what, 28?
28.
28. So you're bucking 32 coming up. The concept of outgrowing your parents. Yeah. And also the point where they lost their superhero in your eyes. Yeah. When we were young, all our parents, not all, I'll say, I can't speak for everybody, but when I was young, I'll speak for myself. When I was young, I looked at my mom and my dad as these like superheroes. As like, dad can't do any wrong, he's so strong, so this, so that, so smart, so this. Mom's so powerful, so smart, does everything. Answer every question, anything I want, they always have the answers. As a kid, right? As you get older, and as you get to this age where I am now, you start seeing all the flaws. You start seeing all the things. You start normalizing your parent. You definitely start seeing it in your 20s.
Yes,
the 20s. You start seeing like, that's a little off. Oh, that's why you used to tell me to do that, because you're hiding that. Or that's why you used to act this way, because really you are that way. Like you start seeing, like filling in the blanks, and then you start to almost retro all the stuff that you might have thought back then. You're like, if I think about that now, it's like, oh, like,
now it all makes sense.
Now you're like, oh, okay. So how did you deal with that, I guess, realization where we're like, one, I think I'm smarter than my parents in some senses. Yeah. Two, I think I'm more mature than my parents in other senses. And three, when you get to a point where you're like, you know, saying no to your parent doesn't actually affect you anymore.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, I get what you're saying.
A loaded question, but like in a sense where it's like, you get to a point where you're like, even when you're still just turning 20, like still saying no is still like, man, I don't want to. Now you say no, you're like, no, I'm actually not okay with that. And you're confident in it. Like, how was that transition for you?
Definitely difficult. Definitely difficult, because I think I was just having a conversation earlier about this, right? And it's about the flaws of your parents. And I think what's interesting is no matter how much you and I know about like health and wellness today, I think there'll come a time when we have kids and our kids will be saying sometimes some of the same things we're saying about our parents right now. Right?
I'm sure.
And for me, I think when I was younger, I would find myself getting upset at my parents in some of those situations. And then as I got older, I was like, wait a minute. You guys are this way because of how like your parents dealt with you, how you were raised, right?
Habit.
And unfortunately, they didn't have like the same set of tools or access to things that we do now, right? Like I don't think my parents at my age were talking about like mental health and wellness. I genuinely don't think that, especially as like being of Caribbean descent, like Jamaicans, like I don't think that's possible. Like a Jamaican household, if you express any emotion other than happiness, it's a problem. Right? Like, why are you sad for? You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. So the thing is, it's like inherited behavior. And once I realized that, I got to a point of, I think, being more sympathetic with my parents versus being upset or like mad at them, right? I'm like, why are you like this? And then it's like, once I understood why, I was like, I may not like it, but I get it. Now, dealing with it is a different thing, because seeing your parents get old is like super weird. Like, I don't think, it's like...
like noticing it.
Yeah, it's almost traumatic. I know it's an aggressive word, but it's real, because like, you're right, you grow up and you look at your parents in a particular way and you're like, oh yeah, Glenmore is gonna be like this forever, you know? Like my mom's gonna be like this forever. And then as the years go on, you start getting a little bit bigger, you start getting, you know, more in shape. You're looking at your parents different, you're like, yo, they're not the same. They're not the same as they were. And you're just like, oh man, like I genuinely don't like that feeling of seeing my parents get old. But then you get to a point where I think the moment I knew things were beginning to switch is when the conversation has changed. When it was like growing up, my parents wouldn't tell me certain things, especially about like family stuff, right? Like about like other side of the family and all that type of stuff. And as I started getting older, like as soon as I hit like early 20s, I started hearing everything about like
air, like everyone's air.
I got all the tea. I got all the tea about my entire family. And I'm like, yo, my family's messy, bro. Like, and it makes sense. I'm like, so I don't know. I think it's something I'm still dealing with. The saying no part is definitely still a hard thing, where I can say it, but I don't feel good about it. You know, if I say no to my parents about something, it's genuinely because I'm busy, I got something else going on. It's hard for me to take off the time. Like, this is what I have going on. But it is kind of wild, you know, like time's flying super quickly. So it's easy to now start thinking about, man, we're getting there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So when I was asked this question, I was kind of like, when I was asked to discuss this question, I was like, this is gonna be tough for me. A very tough topic for me to talk about, because as much as I want to respect my parents, I don't want to throw them under the bus. I also want to be honest with myself, right? So without giving too much detail, I've never been disappointed in my parents before until like recent years. Like generally like how a parent is disappointed of their kid. Like when you get in trouble at school and your parents are like, I'm disappointed in you. I can't believe you did this. Like, how could you? Like that type of conversation, it was like, how could you? What's wrong with you? Like when your parents talk to you, like, and it's like, and you have that, like, you're scared to come home. Like, you know you did something wrong. Like, that type of, like, feeling on you, I've had that on them.
I've had that before.
And it's like,
I've had that.
It's a very uncomfortable position, because it's like, you know you're wrong. And you know I'm right.
But they won't say it.
But they won't say it. And I don't want to push it. So it kind of just gets left.
It just sits there.
Right?
It is what it is.
And that doesn't solve anything. Right? So like a situation I'm in right now is like with my mom, I'm like, there's something she did recently, and I'm kind of just like, wow. Like, really? Man. Like, and it's tough, because I'm just like, I don't really know how to address this, because you're not a kid. Like if this is my child, I could take them aside and be like, listen, as your father, I want this for you, blah, blah. This was wrong, this is right. I hope you're better in this area, and this is how I'm gonna help you.
Yeah.
But when it's your parents, kind of like, I already have this sense of feeling like you don't really want to hear what I have to say, even if I'm right. Because it's like, I'm the mom, you're the son.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost like, even if I am right, you don't want to give me that satisfaction.
Yeah. You don't want to say
You
I'm right.
don't want to. So like this, it's almost feel like a pointless conversation to have.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm not gonna get through.
Yeah.
And do you just have to leave it? Like, what is the alternative? Like, do you just have, like, are people at a point where, like, parents at the point where they are who they are? And like, they can still learn from you, yeah, but like.
It's such a double-edged sword, man, because the problem is with parents in general is that, you know, habits are hard to break. Like, they're really hard to break. It takes a lot of willpower to break a habit. And, you know, okay, let's just use you for an example, right? Like, you're turning 30 this year. And if I'm being generous, I'll say for the first 18 years of your life, you're not really in a position yet where you're constantly making critical decisions. Like, the decisions you make affect other people. And then the decisions you make, like, seriously affects you. You know, like, when I think back to going into college, university, I remember being hammered into my head that, like, this is gonna define you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I look back, I'm like, that did nothing for me. Like, it's not that big of a deal, right? I'm gonna tell that to younger children today. Like, it's really not as stressful as the older generation makes it out to seem. So that leaves you with 12 years, right? And in those 12 years, that's 12 years of you learning, making mistakes, like figuring it out, not making those same mistakes, and you're constantly like recalibrating, evaluating and recalibrating. And part of that is because, yes, I keep saying, like, there are tools available to do this, but also, even though having these types of discussions aren't super common within our community, they're still being had more than like our parents' generation. So
because we ask more questions.
Yeah. So you compare 12 years of like trying to figure this out versus 30, 40 years of the same behavior. So like now that behavior's set, like it's set. And it's like way harder to try and tell someone that, like, look, especially as their child, like I'm your child telling you, yo, your behavior in this situation doesn't, like, it's not kosher.
Yeah.
And that's what drives the divide right there, because, you know, there's no way that in like a Caribbean household, you're telling your parent like their behavior is off in this situation.
Even if you're right.
Even if you're right, without some backlash happening. And what typically ends up happening is we're just like, they're set in their ways, like, I just have to kind of live with it. This is how it is. And it creates some sort of a cycle, right? So I think it is tough. Like, it's tough to sit there and tell yourself, yo, like, I really want to have this conversation, because if I don't, it's not even a feeling of regret not having the conversation. It's a feeling of, like, you really left something on the table that's gonna like, I know it sounds like regret, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? Because it's just this feeling. It's like I don't know how to explain it. It'd be like seeing something hanging off the edge of a table you know is gonna fall at some point.
You just have to let it.
And you're just like, I just gotta leave it there. I can't go and fix it. I'm just gonna leave it. Right? It's super problematic and it's tough. It's tough. I've been in that situation where I've had those conversations, and I can't always say that having the conversation went the way that I wished it would have, but I can say that having the conversation made me feel a little better down the road, right? Because then I could say to myself, like, retrospectively, like, I said, like, at least I said this. Like, I was able to say it, and it's no longer on me.
Like, what happened? Yeah, I think that's the line. It's not on you anymore.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you know something and you don't share it, you feel like you're doing a disservice to yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I know the situation, and I know that whether or not something good comes from it or not, saying it isn't saying it will at least have the opportunity for something better to happen.
Yeah.
Right? But then I'm like, saying said thing can also tarnish a relationship that you can never go back to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like, is that worth, is it worth the conversation? Like, that's what I'm kind of like, is it worth the conversation to address the situation with my parent and be like, okay, listen, I don't care how you feel. This is what is happening. This is what needs to be fixed today.
Yeah.
Right? And if that conversation doesn't go how this person wants it, now it's been said, you know how this person feels, and I don't agree with that with you. So our relationship now changes forever. From this conversation, it now changes because now I know how you think about me, and okay, cool.
Bro,
you can never undo this combo again.
Yeah,
and now I'm like, what was the point of even saying this?
Nah,
because you're still gonna go ahead and do this. Not like
it's tough. Yo,
right?
it's tough because basically what you're explaining right now, like I don't know the full details, but what you're explaining is what I'm going through with my dad, right? And it's like I love my parents to the moon, right? Like that's never gonna change. But one thing I used to hear growing up a lot was I used to hear my older brothers or my mom sometimes say that, oh, you're just like your dad, right? Like you do some things, like the way you guys act.
Yeah.
And it never used to bother me. And then as I started getting older, it used to drive me nuts because it would drive me nuts because I would see things about my dad that I didn't like in terms of certain behaviors.
Yeah, and you're like,
and I'm like,
I don't want to be that.
I'm like, don't say I'm emulating him because that's not what I'm trying to project, right? So you're right. I've had a conversation with my dad exactly like what you're saying, and like more than once, and things didn't go the way that I wanted, and our relationship has totally changed, right? It's very different to what it was like 10 years ago. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but I'll be honest, like I don't like it. Like I don't like the fact that I'm very much aware of the fact that our relationship has changed dramatically. But somehow, like I'm a little bit at peace with it, knowing that I had the courage to even say it, because that's a part of it too. Like it's tough saying like controversial or difficult things to your parents because they're your parents. And then on top of that, I just feel good knowing that, look, I said what I needed to say for the betterment of our relationship. And if it doesn't go the way that I wanted to, like maybe they'll come around in the future, right? Because that's another thing I've noticed too. Like people tend to come around eventually when they have enough time to think on it, right? And it goes back to, people apologizing, not in the way that the person wants the apology to happen. So I can't say something.
This is how you should have reacted.
Wanting to get a certain reaction. I just have to accept however it comes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. It's not fun. It's not fun, but it is what it is, man.
It's not fun, especially because it's like you almost like wonder to yourself, you're like, all the things, like, especially when you're like, all the things you've been telling me not to be or become, when you do it, it's like, you're almost confused. You're almost like, but I thought, like.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's like, cause, like we grew up thinking our parents are like superheroes or whatever you want to call it. I think I realized at an early age that, probably in my early 20s, that my parents were flawed, right? And that wasn't a bad thing for me. It probably humanized them more and made me like them even more. Because I'm like, these people mess up. I remember my mom telling me about like crazy stuff she would do or like my dad would do. So it was like, that stuff makes sense to me. But it's only frustrating when you're right. Like, I'm the child, you're the parent. You know that I'm right. You know I am. You know, but you just refuse to. It's not even a satisfaction thing. That's the crazy part. Right? I don't gain any satisfaction.
I didn't win.
I don't win nothing. Like, it's not an easy conversation. I'm not gonna come out of this saying like, got you. Like, I'm gonna come out of this conversation and be like, that was tough, but I'm glad we had it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's tough. It's super difficult.
I'll tell you about it later because it's crazy. But so this leads into another topic is the guessing of adulthood.
Yeah.
So How much do you think you guess on a day-to-day basis?
Guess?
Yeah. Guess in the terms of like, when you went to school, did you know how to do half the things that you're doing in university in terms of like studying, prep, all these certain things? When you finished university, did you know how to do, I don't know, budgeting, taxes, investments, income tax? Now that you're working certain things, did you know how to, certain things about your car? Did you know how to sign a contract, how to make a contract, how to write things, how to send a draft me? Like, how much on a day-to-day basis do you think you're guessing, like, to function?
That's a funny question, because honestly, I think,
like, you try stuff and you're like, shit, oh, that worked. Okay, cool. Like,
I don't, on a daily basis, I don't think
it might not be daily now because you're you've guessed already.
Yeah, but I will say there's a lot of winging it. Like, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because, I know for a fact, like, speaking for myself, I know for a fact that when I got into the freelance stuff, I didn't know a lot. I didn't know a lot. Try my best researching online, and then the best way for me to learn, which is just
toss yourself,
jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
If I make it, I make it. If I fail, I'm gonna have to pick myself up and do it again. But that speaks to like a larger issue, though, about the whole guessing thing, because how much, like, what things should we really learn or be taught, right? That we shouldn't even have to guess about. Like, you shouldn't have to guess about things like taxes or investments. And I know people will look at that and say, well, that's why you have services for that, right? But those are generally things that everyone should know how to do. Like, you should know how to do your taxes. You should know how to invest if possible. There are a lot of things you should know how to change a tire on a car. Like, there are things you should know how to do, and it shouldn't be like, oh man, like, I don't know how to do it, I gotta guess. There are a lot of people that be lost in society right now if they didn't have the internet, right? Or just things in general. So yeah, I definitely guessed a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad at that. It's just I've never really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And how much am I guessing in adulthood? Quite a bit.
And the reason I was thinking about that is because it also tied back into the parenting thing, right? And that's why I'm on like the fence with this whole situation I'm dealing with, is because I know that they're guessing. Because now I'm an adult guessing.
But you know what?
Right? Like,
but you know what? Like, what you just said made me think of something. So I just pictured, let's say I have a kid like next year, right? That's foreign to me. I see my older brother has a kid, love my nephew Kai. But that's his kid, it's not my kid.
Yes.
So I don't know what it's like to have a child, right? And I think what I'm guilty of forgetting, and I'm just realizing this now, is your parents are constantly trying to figure out parenting. Constantly, because it doesn't end. It literally doesn't end.
You keep getting older.
Just because I'm a grown-ass man now, it literally doesn't change.
How do I deal with you now?
How do I deal with you now? How do I deal with this my grown child walking around just doing things
what he wants to do
off in the world by himself?
Flying where he feels like flying when he wants to.
Okay,
doesn't want to call in and check in. Like, what do I do about this?
When I was
right?
I'll never forget this. Around the time, and this is something that people who aren't black, I don't think they'll have a difficulty understanding this, right? But when the Trayvon Martin stuff happened, and like a lot of the shootings were happening in the States, at the time I was dating a girl who lived downtown, right? And I used to stay at her place like all the time because I worked downtown too. And there'd be some day, like I text my mom every single day. Sometimes my dad, but I text my mom every day. And I would sometimes like forget to just say that I'm not coming home, I'm crashing downtown. And my parents would get so mad at me, especially my dad, so mad. And I'm like 23, 24 at this time.
Hey, what's the problem?
Thinking to myself,
chill.
It's not that serious. Like, why are you getting so mad?
Relax.
I'm like, why are you getting so mad at me? Right? And that's, the ignorance of being a child, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not a young child like Trayvon was, but they're thinking, yo, you're my black son who did not tell me that he was coming home, wasn't coming home.
Yeah.
I have no idea where he is.
This is stuff's happening.
This stuff's happening around the world, and I have to think about this, right? So it never ends. Like, it never ends being a parent.
Because you know right now, especially being aware right now, that if you have a kid that goes out tonight, 15, 16, whatever age
and they don't,
and he doesn't hit you like you as more. He doesn't hit, Dad, yo, I'm not coming back. I'm staying at Jake's house. Yeah. If he just literally cuts for the day at 4 p.m. and you're now on your computer editing or doing what you're doing, and it's 3 a.m. your time, and you're like, where's my son? Yeah. You're like, you know you'd be like, what? This guy's been out since 4 p.m. Yeah. Look at your phone, no text, no call. You'd be like, then you blow up his phone. Yeah. Yo, where you at? No response. You're gonna trip. Yeah. You're gonna be like,
I'm gonna trip so hard.
And he comes in 9 a.m. next morning. Yo, what you saying, Dad? You'd be like, no.
Like, what are you talking about?
Right? Like,
what are you talking about? Like, so I get.
What are you talking about?
So I get it. Like, I get it. Like, you know, like, and that's only with hindsight. And it's to your point, because we are getting older, and I'm just walking through life sometimes guessing. I know.
And I'm 30. I'm turning 30. And I'm still like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah. And I know my parents are.
And no kids.
Yeah.
Word like this, I don't know what I'm doing, and no kids.
No kids. You want to insert a child into my life?
And I think that's where my discretion's coming, right? Yeah. So I have this tug of war inside, because I'm like, I know that you might know I'm right in a situation, but I also know that you don't want to disappoint me in a situation. But I also know that you're like, you probably are thinking on a constant basis, like, man, like, I don't want my kid to find out about this. Like, like whatever it is, like, you're constantly like, man, like, I know I said this. Like, I try and place myself in my parents' body sometimes, in a sense as like, if this was me right now, and I had someone under it, and I knew I screw up, I'd be like, man, like, yo, you know what I mean? Like,
but
man,
Ryan, like this kind of this kind of plays in though to what you told me, right, about on New Year's resolution. You're like, you need to stop caring so much about what other people think.
I agree,
and it's tough, because that's like a quality of mine that is to a fault. Like, sometimes I think way too much about what other. It's not what everyone thinks. I don't care what people on social media think.
People you care about.
It's people I care about. Right? So I care too much about what my parents are how they're gonna react to these situations. Yeah. And I think you're doing that right now because you care so much about your parents. Right? And when I say you shouldn't care so much about what they think, it's not from a negative place. It's more so you shouldn't care about overthinking, like being in their position, how would you react? It's like, no, like you, at some point, you're just gonna have this conversation. Yeah. Because if you don't, you're just gonna be tense. Like, you're gonna be tense all the time, and it's not gonna release. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think if there's anything to take away from it, it's tough to have these conversations. They need to be had whenever they're gonna be had. Yeah. And our parents are always constantly trying to figure things out the way that we are. Yeah. Which is nuts. Like, when you think about that, because I think everyone thinks, yo, I'm gonna hit this age.
You just know.
And I just know. Like, I just know how these things work. I think, you know what? I think I'll cut our parents some slack a little bit because they've had multiple children. So, you know, I have a youth. First one, I'm like, yo, I'm lost. Child two, oh, bless. Okay, this one did this. I kind of have some idea. This didn't work. This might work.
But if you're not learning.
Yeah, so in some cases it works. But like you said, if you're not learning,
that's on you.
That's on you. That's where the problem comes in.
Okay. Yeah. Right? I definitely have to bring this up for sure. Yeah. Was it something you want to talk about?
Yeah, last thing I saw, we'll wrap this up because it's once again like a relationship thing. Charlamagne had gone off on Lonnie Love, who's on The Real, right? Okay. And basically, the topic was about cheating. And Lonnie Love had basically said that, she was basically saying that a lot of black men cheat because it has a lot to do with like generational stuff, like traumatic stuff from slavery, like all that type of stuff.
She's defending?
She wasn't really defending. Okay. She was just saying that because I can't remember her name, Adrienne Ballon or whatever, the girl that used to be in Pussycat Dolls or something. Not Pussycat Dolls, something like that.
Okay.
But she was basically saying, the girl was trying to say, nah, like, this is why all men cheat, right? Like, all men cheat for this reason, blah, blah. But then Lonnie Love kind of doubled down by saying that.
Specifically black
men?
men?
Yeah, she's like, black men cheat because of this, this, and this, and we have, like, a issue in our community and all this type of stuff. And then I think Joe Budden, like, was saying that black men cheat because it's, like, a power thing, like a status thing. And Charlamagne just kind of went off on a lot of people, right? And he was just saying, like, look, he's like, I can say all this because I cheated in the past, right? And he was saying, men stop cheating when they truthfully realize that their actions are really, really hurting someone else. And on top of that, they don't feel anything from it, right? Like, they don't, actually, they feel guilty for doing it. Okay. Sorry, they feel guilty. Right? That's when they stop, right? And the argument that he was making was, he wasn't even being funny about it, but he was saying that, they keep saying black men cheat, but he was just like, honestly, it's boys. Like boys across any like race
just
cheat.
Being a boy.
You just being a boy, and it's stupid. Like, it's crazy, right, that happens. But it was interesting hearing that take on it, because he was just saying, like, look, we saw Kevin Hart talk about it in his documentary. He was saying, you know, my guys weren't around me and all this type of stuff. He's like, no, like, you cheated because you thought you could get away with it, right? Like, that's probably what happened. You thought you could get away with it.
Especially that line, that was the only line in that whole documentary where I was like,
come on, bro.
He's like, yo, my guy's right there. I'm like,
that was problematic. I was like, bro, like, yes, I know for a fact if I get famous and I still have my core group of guys around me, I know one of them is going to be smart enough to be like, stay away from that, stay away from this, we're not going there, blah, blah, blah. Because that's what we do. But if your boys aren't there, that's not an excuse to just be like, well, they're not here. You know, it is what it is, what happens, because my boys weren't there. Like, no, that's not how it works. But it's like, come on, like, let's be real. Like, a lot of dudes that have cheated, that's what it's about. Like, that they're doing it and they're not feeling any sort of like repercussion from it.
So I think, like, I agree. I definitely agree. And again, I've cheated before. I've said this on podcasts or shows and stuff. And it's interesting because I definitely agree with Charlamagne in that sense, because it's like, it's so much easier to cheat on somebody. Like, put it this way, I think you have to be a psychopath to cheat on someone and think about them. Yeah. You have to be psychopath. Yeah. Like I think you. Like,
I 1,000%.
You have to be like, I know I'm thinking about my girl right now. I'm still doing this, and I'm currently thinking about her while I'm doing this, and still like that's another level of person. Yeah. Right. So what actually happens is you're not thinking about these people for that moment of time, for the communication you're having with somebody else, the walk to the house, whatever it is. It might come in for a second and then leave. Come in for a second. Like, there might be spurts of it, but it cannot be constant. Yeah. If it's constant, you'll stop, you walk away, you go home. Because if it's constantly there, you're like, this is weird. Like, my brain's not here. Yeah. So there has to be a point of situation where you're not thinking about that person. Yeah. And that little gap where you're not thinking about that person is when you can do it. When that person can swoop in, a girl can say something and you're like, you're in it. And then immediately after, usually, you're like, oh, man. You're like, look what I did, blah, blah,
That's
right?
post-nut clarity.
It's that post-nut. It's that post-nut clarity. It's that post-nut clarity. But what I've seen in myself when I'm not cheating, and when I'm with people that I don't cheat on, for example, is they're constantly in my head because, A, I actually care in the sense that, like, I know if I do this will hurt this person that I actually care about. Yeah. B, it's like, okay, the plus minus of the situation is like, okay, I do this thing and I ruin whatever I
It's wildly scaled in like one way. Yeah.
Wildly scaled. Yeah. Because if you don't feel like whatever you have with that person is like so much of a benefit to your life, you don't feel like there's a loss. Yeah. Because you're obviously aware of the repercussions. If this gets out, this person will probably be upset, most likely leave me, or cause a fight, whatever. But if that outcome doesn't really bother you, then you'll take that risk.
So do you think when someone admits to cheating, they're doing it to clear their own conscience or because they genuinely care about the other person?
Oh, it's for their own conscience.
Yeah, like there's no...
Because if they care about their person, you're like, I want to hurt you. That's what, like if you, that's what you're doing. You're basically saying, you're not telling me because I care.
Next time we have a female guest on the show, I want to ask because I think most guys would answer that way. I'm curious to know if most women would like think that logic that we have is crazy, like actually psychotic.
No, it's like...
Because that makes sense to me, right? Like, if I was to ever cheat, I think it might, like, because it all depends on the scenario, right? Like, if it's so wild, I can't even think about it, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like if it was a scenario where it happened and I didn't think about my girl at all. Okay, this is the only scenario. I'm in like a foreign, like other side of the world country.
Okay.
It happens there. I've never seen this person again. I come back
for the
home,
rest of life.
Yeah, I come back home, I see my girl. I'm like, if I start having those feelings, like, I messed up. Like, this is what I did.
And the thing is, she's completely oblivious.
She's
completely oblivious. So, like, there's no reason for you to actually say anything.
So it's like, it comes down to two things.
Like, there's no actual reason. Because she comes home, hey, babe, I got this. And you're like, I'm good. How's the trip? Great.
You know what I mean? It's like my conscience is going to be ruined because this thing's eating me up inside, right?
And she's like, what's wrong? What's wrong?
And I'm like,
nothing.
I got to tell you this.
What? Why? Why do you gotta?
That's the thing.
Why do you gotta?
I'm doing it because it's killing me.
It's bothering you.
It's bothering me.
Because they're normal and you almost feel like I don't deserve this
feeling.
Not the feeling. I don't deserve the feeling. I don't deserve to feel like this. No. You're almost like, because they're so oblivious.
Yeah.
Like, I'll speak for myself, my situation, because I told the person when I cheated on that person. I felt like, because you're so oblivious and so much in love with me, I don't deserve you like this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like, it's almost like, and then it becomes like, you start to like overanalyze the things they say.
Yeah.
And then it almost feels like they start saying things that are so wild that
as if they know?
No, as if they know, but almost like, not that they know, but they'll say things that are so completely wild that they never said before. Like, I love how honest you are as a person. You know what? I knew you were the man for me. So pure as a human. Like, almost everything they say starts to feel like it's to the nth degree of like, you're like, come on. Like, you must know something I'm hiding. And it's like, they start saying stuff and acting in a way where it's like, you are the best human being. I'm so glad we can have such a pure, honest relationship.
And you're literally looking at her, and in your head, you're like, I'm trash.
I'm dirt.
I am literally trash right now.
It's like, that's the feeling. It's the feeling that's like, they start saying things, start acting things as they naturally should and feel.
Yeah.
But you're like, I don't deserve this from you because I'm not. Like, I'm not. And you need to know I'm not because you look stupid right now.
And it's because I made you look stupid.
I made you.
Yeah.
I made you. So
I think that's the other thing too. Like, as you get older, you realize that the one common thing I've heard from a lot of women is just like,
don't make me look stupid.
Don't make me look stupid.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You don't want to make them look stupid.
Yeah.
Under any circumstances. So it's like the moment, it's not just, okay, it's one thing for your girl to look stupid only in front of you, like in the sanctity of that.
Publicly stupid.
But like public stupidity is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when you're like, oh no, like this.
So, okay, so for that then, like, do you think men, this may be a question you can't really answer, but do you think men are more inclined to tell women that they've cheated on them due to the fear of that getting out? Or is it really a conscious thing? Because if, let's just say, everyone who's cheated on their girlfriend or boyfriend did so and the scenario would never, ever get out. Ever.
Yeah.
This would never get out. There's clauses, there's whatever, it's the person across the world, like whatever the reason is. Yeah. This will never get out. You will live the rest of your life, your husband, your wife, girlfriend, whatever, will never find this out.
Yeah.
Do you think men would still tell? Or a higher percentage? There might still be a man that's like, I still kind of feel bad. And so, but
I think the majority of them would not say anything.
Definitely.
And like, I genuinely don't like saying this, looking like the bad guy, but it's the truth because
it is.
I've had conversations with some friends who are just like, look, being humans, like we're like sexual beings. Like it's not like you're gonna move through this life and not see someone that you're like, oh man, like, I want to sleep with them. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I think what really stopped it from happening, and this is probably the realest thing I ever said, and also might simultaneously be the most savage thing I've ever said. But part of, like, I would say if there was a percentage, right? It's like like 70-30.
Okay.
70% because I actually truthfully love my girl more than anything.
Right.
The other 30% is like genuine fear. Like it's genuine fear. Like I'm so fearful that like if I was to do something like that,
it'll come back to you.
It would come back, and just all the repercussions. Right? And I'm being honest.
I respect it.
It's the fear because I know, like, look, I know me, and I know that knowing my luck, knowing things that happen to me in life, there's no way something like that happens without it being something catastrophic.
Not one leak in any area.
There's absolutely no way. And I know for a fact there are a lot of men who might not be in relationships now that would say, like, look, if I knew that I would never, ever, 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 ever get caught, it was a one-time thing, it would never happen, like, ever, I might take that risk.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like, it's fact.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, and a lot of other men, I know a lot of them think that way too, but they're also like, I actually fear, like, the feelings that come with that.
Yeah.
And I think some of that also comes with like a little bit of fear that your girl instills in you. You know what I mean? Like,
because the thing is, even if you take the opportunity, right? You take that, but no one will ever find out for the rest of the time. Even if you take the opportunity and you're like, you know what? My girl doesn't know and she'll never know. You know.
You know.
Like,
and the thing is, now I gotta, not only do I have to look at you, I gotta look at your mom. Like, I gotta talk to your parents. I gotta talk to your friends. Like, that's the thing. Like, those are all the fearful things. Like, how am I gonna look at your mom in the face? How am I gonna talk to your mom? Talk to you like you're an idiot. You know what I mean? It's wild.
You have to internally, like, it sounds crazy, but you have to internally be a bad person. Like, if you're okay with doing that, and then continuing, and literally it doesn't bother you at all. Like, some people might do that, and it bothers them for the rest of their life, and they're like, you know what, I made a decision, it's gonna bother me for the rest of the life, I'm gonna die with this, but it's gonna bother me for the rest of my life. Yeah. But if you're literally someone that's like, this actually doesn't even matter. Like,
yeah, I'm
super fine.
I think a lot more people would just be better off just saying, you know what, this is kind of what I want to do. Like, maybe not be in a relationship, I just kind of want to sleep around with people. Yeah. I might just want to be with you right now, but like be open. Like, I think people just be better off because I think there are a lot more dudes out there who are like killing themselves internally, holding stuff in. Like just racking themselves.
And then you add to
when they would just be better off just saying like, this is what I am. This is who I am.
Accept me.
It is. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up.
Thank you guys again for another great episode tuning in with us. We're already halfway through January somehow. Like, what? Yeah. But yeah, the year's on to a good start for me so far. A lot of planning in place, a lot of, strategizing, and just, I feel like this year's a year of growth for a lot of people. So I'm excited to see what comes from this year. There's obviously, I discussed last week, there's a lot of bad things still happening in the world right now that we're trying to address. But overall, thank you guys for tuning in every week. It's always a great episode. Hopefully, gave you some questions to kind of ponder with. Hopefully, you guys have some, your own situations that you want to maybe voice to your parent that you've been holding on deep down that they're never too old. They're never too old. You're never too young to just speak your mind. But thank you guys again. Wntt TV. I'm Mr. KOA alongside
Top Boy.
Thank you guys for tuning in. See you.
Peace.
Hello?
We need to talk.
We need to talk.
We need to talk. We need to talk.